Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm just going to show you how to make this really cute macrame crossbody bag with a long strap. This was highly requested when I shared it on my Instagram and I'm so glad you guys love it as much as I do. It also has this really cute wooden hoop for a closure to help make your bag a little bit more secure. So here I have 16 lots of 350cm lengths of cord, which is going to make up the bag portion of the bag. I have one lot of 140cm length of cord, which is what we're going to use to hang the bag from and stitch it up with. I have two of these cute bronze lobster clasps. I'll have the exact ones that I use linked in the description box for you. I have two lots of 740cm lengths of cord, which are going to make the straps. They're extremely long, but you need it to be that long to make the whole crossbody. I have one 3.5cm wooden hoop. The exact ones again are linked in the description box for you. And I have one lot of 20cm length of cord. This is optional to create the closure. You could just leave this part out if you wanted. And then lastly, I just have two lots of 40cm lengths of cord for the wrapping knots. So let's get started. So I'm just grabbing my 140cm length of cord here and I'm just going to use this shelf to tie onto it so it hangs like this. You could use the back of a chair too if you don't have a shelf like this. I've used the chair and it works fine. And I'm going to grab my 16 lots of 350cm and we're going to attach them using a lark's head knot. So I'm going to take one and find the midway point. I'm going to put the midway point behind the cord like this and then I'm just going to pass those two cords through the loop there. And then just pull that to tighten it, and then you can just repeat this with 15 remaining cords so they're all attached onto this string using the lark's head knot. Perfect, just like this. And now we can start making our square knots. So I'm going to take the first four cords on the left, and I'm going to take this fourth cord over the middle two, and the first one will go in front of that one, behind the middle two, and then it will come through this loop here. And then you can just pull that to the top and then take the first one over the middle two, and the fourth will go in front of that one, behind the middle two, and through this loop here. So this is a square knot and this is what's going to make up the whole body of the bag. So we're just going to repeat that going across the whole way until we get to the end, just like this. And now we can complete an alternating row of square knots. So in order to do that, we're going to take out the first two cords on the left and then take the next four. So it'll be two cords from two square knots of the first row. And we're going to create square knots going along the whole length like this, making sure to leave out the last two cords as well. That's our second row done here, and now we can go back to grabbing the first four cords just like we completed on the first row and creating a row of square knots. So it's super easy to create alternating rows of square knots. Just carry on doing this until you have 50 rows in total, and it's definitely an arm workout, so maybe put Netflix on in the background or something just to take your mind off it. And now we're going to create the triangle portion of the bag. In order to do that, we're going to take out the first and last two cords again and create a row, and then we're going to take out two more cords from either side, create a row, and then we're just going to keep repeating this until we end up with one square knot at the bottom. So now that we've got the triangle down, we're going to create a row of double clove hitch knots. So I'm taking this first cord on the left and holding it at the angle following the triangle shape. I'm going to take the second cord, I'm going to bring it up and over like this, and then I'm going to pass it behind and through this loop here. Just like that, so you can pull that to the top to tighten it, and then repeat once more on the exact same cord. So up, over, behind, and then through this loop. And then just pull that up next to the first knot, and that's a double clove hitch knot. So we're going to take the next cord in line and repeat the exact same steps, making sure to repeat it twice on each cord. So I'm just going to continue going down at this line following the angle of the triangle, just like this. But the four middle cords from this last square knot here, we don't want to make double clove hitch knots out of them. So I'm just going to continue the line, but making sure to not mix those four cords into the line. And now we're going to repeat the exact same on the other side. So I'm taking that last cord and holding it at that angle and taking that first cord up, over, behind and through the loop, making sure to repeat it twice with each cord. So I'm continuing that and making sure to not include 4 cords from the square knot. Now optional, you could do another line of double clove hitch knots if you wanted, just for an extra bit of design, but I'm not going to. So now it's time to attach our wooden hoop. So I'm just going to grab those 4 cords from the last square knot. I'm going to grab the 4th one. We're going to come from behind and go through the wooden hoop like this. And then I'm going to take it from behind again and come through. And then it's going to come up and over like this, just to create this little loop here, and come from behind and through the loop that you created. And then you can just pull that to tighten it. And that is how we're going to attach the wooden hoop to the bag using those 4 cords. So now I'm just going to loosen the knot and tighten it all up so the wooden hoop sits flush against the base of the triangle. And then I'm taking the next cord in line, so it would be the 3rd cord, and I'm doing that again. So from behind it comes through, and then it will come through again from behind, and then create that loop, go behind the hoop and then through the loop there. So just repeat that using your other 2 cords until your wooden hoop is attached. So now I'm just going to take those 4 cords from the wooden hoop and leave them out of the way for now, and just trim off the excess cords from the fringe just to make it a bit easier to work with. And don't forget, you can always keep these scraps because you can make so many things with them, like I say every time, and I'll link my scrap cord project playlist here for you to check out to see what you can make using those scrap cords. Now for these cords, I'm just going to give them a bit of extra security, and I'm going to weave them into the knots. So I'm just taking some jewelry pliers here, and I'm just going to pull each cord through a couple of knots just to make sure that they're nice and secure, and then I'm going to trim them. You could always add a bit of fabric glue or something if you wanted to make it extra secure. And that's it for now. So now I'm just going to take it off of the shelf, and I'm going to make sure that the bag is sitting evenly on that 140cm length of cord. So you can just slide it up and down the cord to make sure that you have an equal amount of length of cord on each side. And now it's time to work on the strap. So I'm just going to take one lobster clasp, and we're going to take one of our 740cm length of cord, and I'm going to attach it using a lark's head knot. And just attach the other cord using a lark's head knot as well, just like this. And then what we need to do is make the 2 middle cords 140cm in length. So I'm just taking the end and I'm going to measure out 140cm. And then once you've hit that point, just make sure you hold the point with your finger, and then we're going to loosen the knot and make sure that 140cm point will then be at the top of the lobster clasp. And then we're just going to match that with the other middle cord. So the 2 middle cords should measure 140cm in total, and the outer 2 cords should have lots of added length to them. So now we can just create rows and rows of square knots. So this is very long and tedious because the outer 2 cords are so long, but they need all that added length because they use up so much length for creating the strap. So we're just going to continue going all the way along until you've used up pretty much all of your cord. Just creating rows and rows of square knots, just like this. Now it's time to attach the other clasp. So we're only going to be using the 2 middle cords from this strap. So I'm going to take the middle cord on the right. So we're going to attach this using a lark's head knot, but we can't do it in the normal way. So what we're going to do is pass it from front to back through the lobster clasp like this. And then it's going to come around from the left, just like this. And it's going to go behind, and then it's going to come from behind through the lobster clasp. And then we're going to pass it through this loop here. And if you tighten that all up, you'll see it looks exactly the same as a lark's head knot. It's just a different way of creating one. So it looks a bit complicated at first, but I promise it's much easier once you get the hang of it. So again, we're going to take the other middle cord and we're going to go through from the front, through the lobster clasp, bring it round to the left, and then bring it through like this, and then from behind it's going to come through the lobster clasp and then through this loop that we left there. And it'd definitely be easier if the lobster clasp didn't turn around as much, but now I'm just going to loosen and tighten the knot so it sits flush up against the base of the strap, just like this, and it's all nice and attached now. And now we can grab our 2 lots of 40cm lengths of cord, and we're going to just create wrapping knots just to finish off the straps and make them look nice and neat. So I'm just taking the small tail at the top like this and creating this loop at the bottom. And then I'm just going to take this long cord and I'm just going to wrap it around. Just like this, so we've still got the small tail there and the loop at the bottom. Just keep wrapping until you've done about 4 or 5 wraps. Then we're going to take this long cord and we're going to pass it through the loop there. You can just gently hold that in place and pull on the small tail at the top, and you'll see the loop will start to close and hold that cord in place. So just pull it until it's about halfway through your knot, and then you can just snip off the excess cords. So this is just going to create a really nice, neat, professional finish to your straps. I'm just using my jewelry pliers just to tuck in the ends to make it look a bit neater. Now we can do the exact same on the other side. Obviously this one has 2 extra cords on it, so it looks a bit bulkier, so I'm just going to wrap this a bit tighter just to make sure it looks as even to the other side as possible. And just snip off all the excess cords from that and tuck them in, and that is our straps complete. So now I'm just going to go ahead and bring in the bag. So we're going to flip the bag around, so we would be doing it inside out basically. So you want the clean side facing you for this, so the right side facing you. And optional is jewelry pliers, or what I find even easier is to tape off the end of the cord. So the 140cm cord, just tape one end like this, just to make it pointier and sturdier so it doesn't fray. And then I'm going to fold up the bottom like this, making sure I leave 2 gaps on either side. So you can see here there's the first gap and the second gap from where the triangle starts. And then you can see that is where we're going to stitch the bags together using the gaps on either side. So I'm just going from behind and passing the 140cm length of cord through the gap a couple of times. Just like this. And now I'm going to come in from this gap to hold the 2 sides together. And then I'm just matching up the gaps on the side, and I'm going to go through both gaps, just like so. I'm going to stitch twice with each gap, so 2 times with each gap on the sides. And I'm going to continue this going all the way down until I get to the bottom. So this is all stitched up and looking nice and neat. When you get to the bottom, you're just going to want to pass it through a couple of times and make some knots. So I'm just doing a normal knot just to make sure it's nice and secure. So I do that a couple of times just to make sure there's no chance of it coming undone. And then you can just snip off the excess cord and repeat the exact same on the other side. So I'm just going to tape off the end again and stitch all the way down, just like we done on that first side, and tie a couple of knots at the end. So now it's looking like this, and we can flip the bag inside out. So the knots where you stitch the bag up will be on the inside and they won't be seen. Just like that. And now this is optional, but I like to comb out the fringe, which I think it creates a much nicer finish. So I'm going to attach the straps now. So if you pull the bag slightly apart at the side, you can reveal that 140cm length of cord. And there should be a little gap, and that's where we're going to attach our clasp. So I'm just repeating that on the other side, just like that. And now I'm just going to give one last final comb before I do my final trim. So you can trim this however long you want. I like to do it quite short. And I just eyeball it, I don't measure it, but it's probably a good idea to measure it. So you could just leave the bag as this if you wanted, but I'm going to attach this last cord to create the closure part. I'm counting out 8 rows from the top, I'm going to attach it on the 8th row. We're going to do it 3 square knots from either side. So 1, 2, 3, that gap, and 1, 2, 3, that gap. So I'm going to take my jewellery pliers and come through the gap on the left and just pull half of the cord in. And then I'm going to come through the other gap and pull the rest of the cord in. And then I'm just going to take the 2 ends and tie them in a double knot inside of the bag, and then just snip off the excess cords. And then voila, you can just pass the hoop through that, and that is your closure, just to make it a bit more secure. But of course you could just leave this out and just have the wooden hoop as a design feature. So I really hope you love this bag as much as I do. I think it's a really cute design with the wooden hoop and the closure. I like that it adds a bit more security. So if you do recreate this bag, please be sure to tag me on Instagram at LunaCraftOnline, because I'd really love to see it and share it. And of course you can just make this your own bag. You can make it as wide as you wanted. You could add more cords to make it wider. And if you could subscribe, like or comment, that would really help me out and make my day, and I'd really appreciate it. And thank you for all your continued support. It's really crazy to me, but I'm very, very grateful for you all. And I hope you have a lovely week. Bye.